Ladies and gentlemen, a moment of silence for E3 2020. So in case you have not heard, I guess you didn't get on the internet this morning, E3 2020 has officially been canceled. Obviously, this is due in part to growing concerns about health environments and situations happening with real-world events, but E3 2020 is just now another statistic in a long list of events that have been canceled thus far in 2020. Of course, Game Developers Conference was also canceled for 2020 as well, and now a lot of people are wondering, well, what's going to happen with E3? Is there still going to be events? Is this still going to be a sort of celebration of video games that we are so used to seeing every summer? You got to remember, E3 has been around for quite a while. It's been pretty much the mecca of video game announcements and video game news for many years. Of course, as the times change, things tend to change as well, and obviously the rise of technology, the rise of things like YouTube and live streaming and live events, and of course controlled events where you can get information out there to millions of gamers at the click of a button has really sort of negated what E3 was all about. You don't need to go to E3 anymore to get these big blockbuster exclusive announcements. Companies can do them on their own time. Now, I have always enjoyed the E3 atmosphere and the E3 presence that it brings to the video game world because I feel like it sort of taps into the mainstream market as well. But E3, of course, just has not really done a great job of adapting to the rise of technology. Now, as far as what companies are going to be doing during the E3 presentation spots that were supposed to be around, it looks like many companies are going to be doing what Nintendo has been doing for many years now with their Nintendo Direct events that take place during E3s. So basically these companies are going to be doing digital events, very similar to what you see with Nintendo. So really, from a fan perspective, E3 isn't going to change all that much. Unless you were someone that went to the show floor, from a fan perspective, you're still going to be getting a very similar experience, I feel. Both Microsoft and Ubisoft has said that they're looking into digital distribution for things like announcements and events during this. Of course, Nintendo is more than likely going to do a Nintendo Direct event. Now, there are some downsides to E3 going away on the business side of things. Of course, for a lot of smaller companies, this is sort of their moment to shine in the light and get a lot of recognition that maybe they wouldn't have gotten in other sorts of situations. Of course, the meet and greet events where you can meet with different developers and things like that, people being able to see things in exclusive events, and even business deals happening. Obviously, there's going to be some economic sort of stuff going on with this, some downside in the economic times, but as far as the fan experience is concerned, I think it'll be relatively the same. It could even end up being better. You got to remember, if there's not going to be any demos on the show floor like there usually is during E3, I can see a lot of companies sort of doing a digital distribution of these demos of the new games that were shown during their E3 presentation. With things like Xbox Live, PlayStation Network, and the Nintendo Switch Online service, you can easily distribute demos to these services that maybe you only have a certain amount of time to play. You know, you can only play it for a week. You can check out this demo and then the demo goes offline. So you could really sort of bring the E3 experience home for people that were unable to go to E3 in the first place. And since there is no E3 now, I think this would be a very wise decision. It's obviously been a very crazy year for the world of video games because of real world events, but this could be something that actually makes E3 a better experience for fans who don't go to the events whatsoever. So it's definitely sad to see. Like I said, I am a fan of the traditional E3 format. It's always something I look forward to every year. I feel like a lot of companies do try to put their best foot forward with these events. The quality has declined over the years, of course, but I always like that mainstream recognition that E3 would always get in places like the New York Times and CNN and places like that. So it's definitely a shame to see that E3 2020 is canceled. I am very curious to see what ends up happening next year. Will E3 sort of try to return to its former luster when it comes to events? But yeah, E3 2020 is officially canceled, but I feel like the fan experience will relatively be the same, but could even be potentially better. Let me know what you think of it in the comments section down below. Next up, a new Nintendo Switch game is coming out sometime in 2020 that potentially pushes the system to its limits. It's sort of in the style of Splatoon and Fortnite, and it sounds kind of interesting even though we don't really have any information on this. Now, this is coming to us from a publication called Koro Koro Comic, which is a monthly publication that releases in Japan. And today they talked about a new Nintendo Switch game coming out sometime in 2020 that sort of implements different styles of things like Splatoon and Fortnite, but really sort of goes over the top with it. So aside from pushing the Nintendo Switch to its performance limits, Gematsu is saying that battles break out in between skyscrapers in the middle of a peaceful city, and that there's a key visual featured in the magazine which they were unable to attain that shows a boy who is the protagonist and a mysterious monster in a New York-like city. So right off the bat, I'm getting some sort of Godzilla vibes from this. Obviously, it's not going to be a Godzilla game. I feel like you would know what a Godzilla game looks like, but looking at those classic Godzilla games where you would pit two monsters against each other in a big city, or War of the Monsters on PlayStation 2, I always loved those sort of things. You got to remember, Luigi's Mansion 3 actually had a little boss battle segment where you were in a big city playing as a big Luigi against a dinosaur-like creature. So I always really enjoy games like this. Now, no publisher or developer has been said. It's just sometime in 2020. But what's interesting is that this seems to be a game that a lot of people are anticipating is going to be very popular, because a manga is actually coming from this and has already been confirmed, even though the game doesn't have a title or we don't have any more information on this. Someone out there definitely feels like this is going to be a very big deal and a very big system seller. I'm actually curious to see what this game ends up being as far as additional details are concerned, but for right now, it sounds promising. I gotta see something in order to get really excited for it, but I do love games where you're like a big monster destroying a big city and things like that, so this seems like something that could potentially be up my alley. Whenever we get more information on it though, I will keep you guys updated. And finally, yesterday on the channel, we of course talked about Lego and Super Mario teaming up for real world toys. I guess that's kind of cool. I'm not much of a Lego fan. Where are my Mario Lincoln Logs? But of course, one of the more interesting facets of this was the fact that allegedly this was supposed to potentially be a part of a Nintendo Direct presentation. Now, did Game.co just simply mess up, or is there something more to it? I don't think we'll ever really know. I do feel like an earlier March presentation for a Nintendo Direct would have made more sense, because right now we are in the longest time frame of having a Nintendo Direct, and I don't even necessarily care about a Nintendo Direct. I just want to know about more games coming out beyond the games that we already have out for 2020, and Animal Crossing and Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, because we already know those games are coming. Animal Crossing comes out in a couple weeks. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is probably going to be a May or June release, but what's there beyond that? That's where the real questions lie. It seems like now we're not only getting one Nintendo Direct, but they're potentially going to be two Nintendo Directs. Now, of course, one of these is going to be an Indie World presentation happening sometime in March. VentureBeat seems to think that the Indie World presentation will be happening on March 18th. And honestly, I like Indie World presentations. An Indie World presentation for the month of March is something I heard like way back in January, and it sort of made sense to me, but I also thought there was going to be a Nintendo Direct before then. So as far as a mainline Nintendo Direct, allegedly this is going to be happening on March 26th, according to VentureBeat once again. Now, as far as what to expect in this Nintendo Direct, according to VentureBeat, it sounds like it's going to be a pretty standard Nintendo Direct. Nintendo is, of course, going to talk about first-party games that will be coming out in 2020, which we don't know anything about. Of course, there's going to be third-party announcements. I expect things like BioShock to be on there. That's one of the worst-kept secrets coming to the Nintendo Switch. There's probably going to be some more surprises in there as well. And, of course, it seems like Nintendo will also be talking very briefly about Animal Crossing. But really, one of the questions that a lot of people have, myself included, is why did Nintendo seem to wait so long to do this Nintendo Direct? And there's been a theory going on around out there, and I'm not even necessarily saying this theory is wrong, but if it is correct, I think this is one of the dumbest things in the world, because it just doesn't make sense to me. I've seen a lot of people talking about this. Even my friend, my good buddy Nate the Hate, said that this was something that he had heard, and it's just like, I don't even necessarily think it's wrong. I just think it's stupid. Allegedly, the reason why Nintendo has been sort of dragging their feet is because they want all eyes to be on Animal Crossing New Horizons for the Nintendo Switch. They don't want other games to sort of overshadow Animal Crossing New Horizons, and they want Animal Crossing New Horizons to sell very well. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, why? If Nintendo comes out with a action RPG game, is that crowd that's looking forward to that game, that saw it during a Nintendo Direct that released before Animal Crossing, are they going to say to themselves, you know what, I'm not going to buy Animal Crossing now, I want to buy that game? The Animal Crossing audience to me is a very, very different audience than a lot of mainline Nintendo games in general. When you look at Animal Crossing games that have come out, you know, within the past decade, they have all sold very well. Look at Animal Crossing on the 3DS, it sold over 15 million copies. Animal Crossing on the Wii sold very well as well. These are evergreen titles. These are titles that bring people into Nintendo platforms because they're very casual. There's no sort of hardcore gameplay mechanics to it. It's a game in which you do what you want to do when you want to do it. I don't feel like any sort of announcement would have overshadowed and potentially cannibalized sales for Animal Crossing, but this seems to be the train of thought as to why Nintendo has waited until the end of March to potentially do this Nintendo Direct. I'm honestly sick of Nintendo Direct rumors. Just do the damn Nintendo Direct Direct already. Just talk about the games that are coming out in 2020. You're not going to cannibalize sales of Animal Crossing. Like, at this point in time, it's just silly. But according to VentureBeat, you're getting 2 Nintendo Directs, an Indie World Showcase, and of course a proper Nintendo Direct happening in the month of March. So I hope for everyone's sanity that, I don't know, this actually does happen. Alright, so that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Be sure to let me know in the comments section down below what you think of everything. What do you think about this mysterious Nintendo Switch game that pushes the system to its limits? Is this something that sounds like it would be something cool to you? Because honestly, it sounds like something cool to me. What do you think about E3 being canceled? Do you see E3 returning to its former luster in 2021? Or do you think that this is the end of an era and this could potentially be the last time E3 is actually a thing? And then of course, what do you think about the latest Nintendo Direct rumors? Because everyone loves a Direct rumor. And would Animal Crossing have been impacted if Nintendo did a Nintendo Direct sooner? And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Be sure to check out other videos on the channel. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next video. Later.